Hey guys, welcome back to the American Dream podcast. I'm here with a very special guest, Miss Carvana, and you're running for Harris County Criminal Court. I know there's more details to it. Can you explain exactly what you're running for?
Absolutely. My name is Carvana Cloud. I'm running for the 488th Criminal District Court. And the Criminal District Court handles felony cases here in Harris County. And then I'm running for one of the three newest courts that they have. And I'm running for the 488th. It's three new courts, and I'm running for one of those, the 488th.
That's amazing. I don't know if I should be scared or happy right now, but I'm so excited to have you on. I think we're going to honestly have some really cool stuff to dig into. Having said that, I guess with your trajectory, with what you're doing, with what you want to accomplish, what led you to that through your lifehood?
Oh my gosh, I'll try to make that as short as possible because God knows I have a testimony, Stephen. But I grew up in Acres Homes, which for folks who don't know, it's a community that's a pretty under-resourced community on the north side. It's actually where our former mayor is from. And I grew up there in the 80s and the early 90s, and there was crime all over the place. I mean, we had crack houses right next to us. There were prostitutes going up and down the street. My mom wouldn't even let me go to the go to the small corner store if I needed to grab some flour or something if I was helping her to cook. That's how dangerous it was. And I said, you know what? People deserve to live in a community that is safe, where they can raise their children and where they can be comfortable. And that's exactly why I decided that I wanted to become a judge, because I knew a lawyer obviously first, and then a judge though ultimately, because judges are the ones that help make decisions that really change people's lives and really affect public safety the most. Yeah.
And then I guess when you're a kid and you're seeing all these problems, right? Like, I mean, we can't really control where we're born, right? So obviously the situation, the circumstances can be tough.
Yeah.
And Houston is such an amazing city. I love the city so much. You have your good things and your bad things. Having said that, what kind of pushed you really to accomplish that, aside from what you were seeing? Like, what made you kind of be like, I want to be a judge? Obviously there's more into that.
Yeah. One of the things that unfortunately I had to witness growing up was domestic violence in the home. And I'm not the only adult who was a child that had to experience that. And seeing that in and of itself just fueled or ignited, that's the word I want to use, my passion to be an attorney. Because I didn't think anybody should have to live in a situation or be in a relationship where love hurts. Love shouldn't hurt. And at a certain point, the justice system has to intervene. I think it's important that they intervene and make sure not only that the pain stops, but that it doesn't continue. So I wanted to be an attorney not only to help survivors, but to hold offenders accountable too. Because when you're talking about cases, violent crime cases like domestic violence or sexual assault or homicide or aggravated robbery, you got to make sure that both sides are taken care of, meaning the victims and the defendants on the accountability piece. And so, having been a former prosecutor for 8 years, I did that. I handled that accountability piece. I worked with crime victims, and as a criminal defense attorney, I had my own firm for about 12 years, actually, and I'm back at it. And you are innocent until proven guilty.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah.
But you are, and so you have to make sure you're making the right calls and you're taking care of whoever you have chosen to represent in that case.
Well, before we dig into the judge aspect of it, how was the process of becoming a judge? Was it easy? I mean, I'm sure there's tribulations. Everyone has their moments, like business, right? Like, oh man, or like this or that. Right. How was that?
It's not easy.
Yeah.
And I'm probably going to be one of your most transparent guests you'll have on here. But it's not an easy process. But everyone, if you qualify and you meet the qualifications, you have to be a resident in Harris County. You have to be a practicing judge for 8 years. You have to understand the law. You have to get people to follow you. You have to get people to support you. So it's not just checking off those basic qualifications, but it's also setting up an infrastructure so people in Harris County can know who you are. Right? It's 2.1 million people in this county.
Wow.
So you got to make sure, and it's one of you, right? So you have to make sure that you're putting yourself out there so people can know you and get to know you, because otherwise you're just a name on a ballot. And people are going in and they may have seen your name and maybe not. But my intent has always been, from the time I filed initially, was to get as many people to know me as possible. And likewise, so I'm not just a name on a ballot, I'm someone you can trust. And that's important for a judge. I think that's very important.
Absolutely. So now that you're a judge, I guess in terms of the responsibilities and duties, we kind of talked before we started the show, you're like, a lot of people really don't know what's going on the back end. So what actually goes on in the back end whenever you're in that position?
Yeah. Well, God willing, and I will win in November. I am claiming that.
You will.
One of the things people have to realize is the judge is like a mediator or a referee. You call balls and strikes. And so you have for example, since this is criminal court, you have the state on one end, of course, and then you have the defendant and his or her attorney on this end. And for example, if one party makes an objection, the judge has to rule on that objection and has to do it rather quickly, and has to do it understanding what one party is asking and making sure it doesn't prejudice the other party. So for example, if the state objects to relevance, if it is relevant, if I deem so as the judge, then that evidence can come in and the jury can hear that. But again, I have to make sure that it's relevant and that it doesn't bias or prejudice the defendant, because that defendant still has rights. Absolutely. And a good judge understands that.
So in that specific moment, we're talking maybe seconds, I guess, when it comes to decision making in that process.
Oh, absolutely, especially when you're in a trial.
And how, as a judge, how do you determine, or how do you cope, or I guess have that mechanism to be able to make the right decision in that span of time? What's going on through your head?
Sure. So first of all, you're listening. And I don't mean that as rhetorical.
Yeah.
You are listening, you are paying attention to that trial. You are there. You are more than a spectator. You are there, you are paying attention, you are listening, just like that jury is. Or if it's a bench trial, they're trying that case to the judge, for example. But I tell you, I think what's going to help me, I can't speak for anybody else, but having done this for 19 years, almost 20 years now, as a prosecutor and as a defense attorney and as an immigration attorney, I have the perspective, the overall perspective to understand how to make that decision. I know what's relevant. I can tell what's relevant. I can tell what needs to be kept out. After I'm listening and I'm hearing, I know how to make those decisions. And I have over 35 trials, so it's not like I'm just, I'm just saying that. I mean, I've been in trial over 35 times, have had very successful verdicts. So I'm very proud of my litigation career, but it goes back to my ability to be able to make those decisions in a split second. I mean, trial experience matters. And so being a lawyer for nearly 20 years obviously is a great thing, and I'm very proud of that. Very proud of that. A little girl from Acres Homes, and
That's amazing.
Yeah,
I love that.
God is so good. My law office is still in Acres Homes. I will never move it. And that's important because I wanted to be where the people who needed me the most were. Whether they were crime victims and I sent them to other attorneys, referred them out, or whether they were criminal defense attorneys and they needed my services. We were there to serve. And that's what being a judge is. Public service and serving people.
Absolutely. So let's go in terms of trials. You said 35, was it?
Yes.
That's awesome.
Thank
What's
you.
the process of a trial for people that don't understand?
Oh, awesome.
Is it like what they see on Netflix? You know what I mean?
It's kind of, but it's so much more complicated, right? Because you see them on Netflix, they're getting their trial books ready and all of that. But listen, from the very beginning of that case, you never know when a case is going to get a trial. You get a case on your desk for the first time as a prosecutor, you take a look at it, you get all the evidence, you review everything, a couple of settings you go through, you may talk to the defense attorney, you may decide, you want to plead this case, don't plead this case, but let's say your client says, I am not guilty, I am going to trial. Well, then you have to get ready. You have to get your trial notebook ready, which includes not only the police report, but any and all evidence that exists. And the state has to turn over that evidence to the defense. So let's be clear. The defendant is not going into trial without access to the discovery, which is the evidence they need, that they're going to intend to prove the case with. So we have that evidence, but you have to comb through that evidence because it's not always what it looks like on its face as a defense attorney, right? So you comb through that evidence, you look at it, and you work with your client to come up with the defense, okay? And then that includes whether or not that client is going to testify. Sometimes that client may not want to testify. As a prosecutor, you're getting your trial notebook ready, you've interviewed your police officers, you've interviewed your witnesses, and you have the burden of proof. So you have to prove that case beyond a reasonable doubt. And you got 12 jurors that's sitting over in that bench, in that box, and they want to hear the evidence. And so you have to make it as clear as possible so they can understand. You can't do a lot of lawyer speaking, okay? You know, you that's what you hear on TV a lot, right? But you got to break it down. That's one of the things that I love doing. I just talk to jurors as if they are, you know, my mom, my friend, my cousin, not in a familiar way, but using everyday words and terms that everybody will understand to get those facts out and make sure that they're as plain as possible. And with your witnesses, you have to do that too, but you got to meet with them beforehand. So it's a lot of meeting, it's a lot of researching, making sure you have the law on your side, any motions that need to be made to the judge. You got to get all that prepared as a prosecutor. So those are the two ends of what you need to prepare for jury trial. It's quite a bit.
I can see that, but I'm sure it's rewarding, of course, right?
Oh, I have a quote on one of my social media pages that said, fighting for crime victims has been the most rewarding part of my career. You have to understand, as a survivor myself, when I hear justice and people wanting justice and justice for all, as we say in the pledge, I wanted to always make sure that survivors had justice, but justice looks different for everybody. Sometimes justice is jail, sometimes it's probation, sometimes for crime victims it's I don't want to do anything. So the state has to figure out how they're going to prosecute that case, maybe with or without the survivor or the crime victim. But ultimately, when you're able to look a crime victim in the face and say, this is what we've been able to do for you, congratulations, this is what we have, and it is consistent with what they wanted, it's nothing like it. You can't pay me for that. You can't pay me for that. And you know, I wish when I was little and growing up, I wish I could have changed a lot that I saw and that I went through. There were some really, really tough times, and I just asked God, because we're a very spiritual family, even still today, and I just asked God, please help me what I need, one, to be smart, rich, and to be able to get us help. And not just us, but everybody else around us. I'm one that believes in the American dream. I believe in the American dream, but I also believe that you got to reach back and you got to help pull up the next Carvana the next Stephen to be able to stand also and become that next. I'm not going to be a lawyer forever, right? But there's somebody, some kid somewhere who does. And they may or may not think that they can.
Yeah.
Just right down the street from my office, 790 West Little York, for example, Garden City Apartments, for example, government-controlled apartment complexes where they may or may not have the resources that they need to be able to, or they may not think they have the resources they need to be who they want to be when they grow up. But when you have mentors around, things change.
Absolutely.
Things change. And their eyes are open.
In your opinion, I guess kind of just adding on to what you're saying, you were talking about the judicial system. What improvements, if any, or would you recommend? Do you feel like we're on the right track, or if someone's like, Carvana, how would you handle the boat, right? Steer the boat.
Sure.
What would you do?
Yeah, I'll say this. I think there are definitely some changes that need to be made. We've had a criminal justice system that's looked and felt the same for a very, very, very long time. But it hasn't caught up with the population here in Harris County. The jail is overcrowded. There are large case logs or backlogs at each court. And so I think with 3 new courts, now is the time, especially, to think about how we can do things different. And my judicial philosophy is based on what I call being smart on crime, having strategic objectives. What are you going to do, Carvana, to make sure that backlog gets down? How are you going to make sure lawyers are able to get into court, get in, get out, but make sure the work is being done, right? Measurable. You're going to be able to measure me. I'm not just saying that I'm going to do something. I'm going to put these objectives in place, and then the people who elect me will be able to measure and see if I've been successful there. Accountability. Accountability is not always a slap on the hand. And I'm making that very clear. I tried 35 cases because I believe they all needed to be tried. And holding someone accountable will help, in many cases, prevent recidivism. And if we don't have recidivism, we can cut down on violent crime. So holding people accountable is very important to me. And I'm not saying that that's not being done here. I'm saying when you walk in the 488th, you can expect that. You're going to be treated with respect and dignity, but there's going to be accountability. There's also going to be reform and rehabilitation. There's some folks who we need to deal with. What is going on? What are the root causes of the crime that they're committing? Is it mental health? Is it homelessness? Is it finances? What is it? And figure out what programs that we have to put in place so again, they don't come back and we can kill the devil that brought them in the first place. And then finally, transparency. The state must be transparent with the defense, and both parties must be transparent with the court. There is absolutely no exception to that. So that's what my judicial philosophy would be based on, and I would go in looking for opportunities to open the court up more, treat people with respect, but at the same time help them understand how important the judicial system is. This is not a game. And it's something that you should take very seriously if you are charged with a crime or if a family member is charged with a crime. It doesn't mean that your life is over necessarily, but you will and should be held accountable.
So adding on to what you're saying, I'm getting like goosebumps to what you're talking about. It's super inspirational. I want to dig into your mindset a little bit.
Oh boy.
Because you have a winner's mindset, and I love that. What kind of constitutes that drive and determination to not take no for an answer and really achieve? I know your childhood is a little bit of that, but I know there's more to it. You know, what really makes Carvana Carvana?
Oh my gosh. I don't like to lose. And I was raised to be a very strong woman. And Carvana hates no. No means absolutely not, never, it can't happen, and you can't do it. And you haven't really thought about a different solution or another way around the barrier. Carvana I live jumping barriers. I live going through hoops. And as a Black woman, I mean, it was very few of us in that prosecutor's office back in 2005 when I was elected, when I was brought in. And so I had to deal with some other issues as well, as far as not being so welcomed by my peers at times. The judges, with the exception of 2, were all white. Non-minority. That was hard, not to see anybody that looked like me on that bench. And so I decided, I don't like this. We've got to do something different. What else can we do to change things up? Because we have to work this judicial system that we have. And it takes winners to think about how you can fix the problem without giving up everything and letting everybody out of the jail or putting everybody in the jail. I mean, there's a sweet spot there. And if we come together, not only as judges, but as the prosecutor's office, as the probation department, as the public defender's office, when we sit down and we actually have conversations about what the issues are, what may not be working, what may be working, I think we can really come to some really good solutions. But you can't take no. You can't take no for an answer. Also, something that makes Carvana funny, you mentioned that. Grew up in Acres Homes, but in the 8th grade, I received a scholarship to go to the Kincaid School. Wow. And it's funny because they actually were diversifying at the time, and they came looking for some of the smartest minorities in Texas, and they found my brother. He scored off the charts, right? He's so smart. He scored off the charts on this standardized test, and they called my mom, and they were like, hey, went to go to his elementary school. Then they called my mom and were like, hey, we really want him to come to this school. And my mom was like, what is this? What is going on? But she learned more about it, and she was like, man, this is an amazing opportunity. And she says, well, if you take him, you got to take her. And I'm thinking, what am I, chopped liver? I'm pretty cool too. And I'm telling you, when we went to Kincaid for the first time and those big iron gates opened and our station wagon pulled into those gates, my life changed forever. It changed forever because I had access to opportunities that I didn't have on the other side of town. So even though every day we went from one side of town to the other, I can't tell you how many tickets my mama got for a muffler that was hanging down or that was smoking because she couldn't afford to fix it and buy the things we need to send us to Kincaid and all of that. But the police were there to stop us, and so things like that also helped me go, I can't wait one day so I can really, 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 really make a change. And so being at Kincaid was hard. Again, I was one of the few minorities there, but you talking about obstacles and barriers, but I learned so much and so many opportunities. I'm bilingual. I was able to go to Argentina and live there before I even graduated, right? So those are the things that make Carvana. Access to opportunities, being raised as a strong woman, and not liking the word no, and finding those solutions to jump those barriers.
You mentioned your story and your mom driving across town and all that. How important was your mom in your life to pretty much be the person that you are today? Was it essential? Was it a core foundation with your mom?
Critical. And she's so humble. She doesn't really like for me to talk about her, but I am. My mom's a single mom, and she raised us. And I still, even with all of the things that God has blessed me with, and I have 2 children, I still can't figure out how to do half of the things she did as a mom. I mean, she was amazing. I mean, the strength that she displayed I mean, was constantly something that we watched, and I drew from that. I mean, if she didn't say no, if she didn't give up, well, I'm not either. So when you have parents that are like my mom, who will give up any and everything for their children, to be able to live their dream or to invest in them, that's what my mom did, does, has done, continues to do. And now I even see her with her grandchildren. My children, sometimes I look up, I'm like, where are my children? Where are my children? and my mom has them over here in this program or over here in this program.
Yeah.
That's the kind of mom she is. She's absolutely amazing. I wouldn't be where I am without her.
I love that.
Yeah.
One of the things that I also want to touch base on, I think I relate to a lot with what you're saying because I'm also a minority. My mom and dad are Colombian. And you mentioned opportunities, right? And I think a lot of minorities, unfortunately, don't have that opportunity to have, a door open.
Yeah.
So I guess my question for you is, for someone that's watching this and they're like, man, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be a judge, I want to do X or Y, but I don't know. How did you manage to create your opportunities?
One of the first things that I did, and now it's so easy now because we have phones and we have all of this. I mean, in 1990, those things weren't available, but I was around a lot of lawyers. When I went to Kincaid, I was around a lot of lawyers, and their parents were lawyers, and so I was able to do internships. Wow. So if you have an ability or an opportunity to do an internship with a law firm, or let's say you don't know a lot of lawyers, look up what it takes to be a lawyer in Texas. You get on TikTok, these kids get on TikTok for everything else. Figure out what it means to be a lawyer. Research it. Figure out what the qualifications are. I'm telling you now, you've got to go to law school, but before you go to law school, you got to pass the LSAT. The LSAT will then determine if, whatever score you get will then determine what law school you go to, because different schools accept, different scores. So you have to do that. And then when you get into law school, you got 3 years of law school. Some people go part-time, it's a little bit longer. Others go full-time like I did. But you have to plan, you have to know where your money's coming from, because if you're in law school full-time, how are you going to work? So you have to think about things like that. But access to other lawyers really helped me decide what I wanted to do. And it definitely helped me decide I didn't want to practice civil law.
What's the difference there for people that aren't aware?
Absolutely. Thank you for that question. So civil law involves, like for example, you may have seen car wreck cases. Anybody who's seen car wreck cases, or contract disputes, or mediations, or on the family law side, divorces or child custody. Versus the criminal side, where you have people actually committing crimes one against another, or stealing somebody's car all the way up to capital murder. So you got criminal over here, and then you have civil over here. To me, civil was a little boring. No disrespect to any of my civil attorneys friends, but I fell in love.
Put me
with
in the
criminal
action.
law.
Yeah.
Give me the action.
Yeah.
Give me the action. Is the state ready? The state's always ready, right? Is the defense ready? The defense is always ready. I love that, and I hope that when I am on the bench, God willing, that He will allow me to be that mentor for some of those kids or some of those students who want to be a lawyer but just don't know how. Why can't those kids come to my courtroom and visit? Why, especially from certain areas that we target that are having the most trouble or going through a lot. And maybe they say, well, I want to be a lawyer, or I want to be a doctor. We should be able to be sending people to different mentors so we can help these kids reach and attain their own American dream. But they can't do it by themselves. Like you said, somebody's got to open that door. It was open for me. and I'm thankful. So we have to keep opening it for others.
It's funny you mentioned that. Someone asked me a question the other day. They're like, how did you get to where you're at? And I kind of looked back. I was like, well, yeah, mindset, of course. But the one thing I always encourage is ask for help. There's nothing wrong with asking for help. I think sometimes we get so enclosed within ourselves that we're afraid to ask for help. It's a simple, hey, could you help me with this? Or how do I run this? Or how do I do this? It goes such a long way with people that want to see you win.
And people don't mind answering.
They don't.
They really don't.
Winners want to see you win.
That's right.
I think it's really clear. Obviously, if you surround yourself with the right people, they want to see you succeed. And I think people sometimes get closed-minded to where they're like, man, I want to do this, but I'm scared. I'm introverted. Or, just ask for help, reach out. And the same way you were saying, just taking advantage of those opportunities. So having said that, where do you see yourself, I guess, in like the next 10, 15 years? What's the ultimate goal? President?
I think I could do anything.
I love that.
I wish I could tell you exactly where, but I tell you what, it will likely be in public service.
Beautiful.
And I want to make sure I am still contributing to the reduction of violent crime and public safety in this town. I will probably die doing that work, and I am very proud to say that. I mean, it's something that I'm very passionate about. I'm not just running for judge to run for judge. I had a very successful practice and have a very successful practice, but I believe that I'm at a point in my life now where I am to give back. And my assignment is to make sure that justice is doled out in a way that is appropriate and reformative, and it takes us to the next level as the third or fourth largest city in this country. Harris County's got some work to do, and it may take, I don't know that it can all get done in 4 years. So that may mean I get a second term, and that puts me at 8 years. And I don't know, after that I may be appointed to a federal bench. Who knows? But I tell you, I'm ready. For whatever it is, I'm ready, and I'm going to keep learning. And I keep asking for help. That's funny. Funny you mentioned that. I'm a Leo. It's hard to ask for help.
What month is Leo?
August.
Okay, I'm a Leo.
You're Libra?
Yeah.
When is your birthday?
October 9th.
Okay. So I'm August 18th.
Nice.
Leo the lion.
Oh.
Ooh. And my husband says it all the time. You're such a Leo. I'm such a Leo. It's really, that's why I got this, I
love it.
But it's not to harm anybody. I've never harmed anybody in my life. Yeah. Okay. But it's that scratch and claw and make it and get to where you need to be no matter what. And nobody scares me. No one scares me. One, because I serve a God that protects me.
Amen.
Two, no one scares me because, who are you? Right? You're human just like me.
Absolutely.
So I think people, like you said, those who are introverts, for example, or folks who may be just a little, not sure about themselves, find your inner strength. It's in there. You just have to find it. Everybody is not as transparent and open as some of us, but for those who aren't, don't give up on yourself, because you have what's within you to be successful. And I'd be darned if I wasn't going to be successful. I'm telling you, growing up, when you have all kinds of, insects and rodents and things that shouldn't be in your house, and you're having to live and fight with that, and then turn around and, see some stuff that you shouldn't have seen as a kid. And one time I had to do my homework by candlelight, and I was sure I wasn't going to have to do my homework that night. I was positive the lights were off. We couldn't afford to pay the light bill, so the lights got cut off. And my mother comes with these candles. And I'm thinking, what is she doing with these candles? She's like, yeah, do your homework. I said, oh, man, you going to make me do my homework by candlelight? She said, oh, yes, ma'am. You are going to do your homework. See, that's the kind of mother I had. But that's where I also picked that up. And that's what I'm sharing with folks that, may not always have those doors open for them. Whatever you have
It's enough.
is enough.
Yep.
It's enough.
Mm-hmm.
You take it and you run with that.
Absolutely.
And don't let anybody tell you you can't. Yeah.
How important is God in all of this for you?
Very. He speaks to me very clearly, and I'm very blessed to have that relationship with him. And that started when I was young. I've been in church all my life, and it's making decisions without him. I have done that, and it hadn't turned out really well.
Yep.
Okay.
Preaching to the choir.
Okay. So, especially when it's come to political decisions, I have been very, very, very clear on listening to him and how he wants me to move. Wow. There have been opportunities for me that I've passed up because I didn't hear him say, that's it. But it was clear this time, I mean crystal clear, when those new courts were added. And even when they were added, I was like, God, or is it now, or is it in 3 more years, or when is it? And he said, go now. And I did. So I think I filed in August of 2023. I feel like I've been running for almost a year. It'll be a year in August. But I don't mind because I'm on assignment. And God's assignment for me is to be on that bench. And when elected, I'll be the first elected judge of the 488th.
That's amazing.
I'm so excited about that. It's a renaissance and a rebirth of sorts, right? None of these courts have to look and don't look the same. But what can we do in the 488th that's different? That's going to contribute to the reduction of violent crime and the increase of public safety. That's all that's on my mind, right? And so making folks that come into that courtroom, again, feel treated with respect and dignity, no matter how much money they have, what they look like. None of that matters because justice doesn't look at any of that. Justice looks at the facts. Justice looks at perspective, and a judge's job, again, is to call those balls and strikes and to make sure that everybody gets a fair shot.
That's beautiful. I have a question. I was kind of just thinking on top of my head, and I'm sure some people are wondering, how do you become like a judge in the Supreme Court? Is there like a process to that as well, or how does that work?
Man, a judge in the Supreme Court, you definitely have to run still. So you're not appointed. So you still have to run for office.
Okay.
But you have to have, and I don't know all of the eligibility requirements, but you definitely have to run. And there's a court of criminal appeals and a Supreme Court. With Texas, it's I won't use the lawyer word is bifurcated, but it's separate. Okay.
It's a really nice word.
The criminal court of criminal appeals, that Supreme Court for criminal cases is here, and then we have the Supreme Court. But all of those judges have run via election, have been elected by the people. Now, there's some folks that get appointed when there are open spots or things happen or people can't serve anymore, and they'll be appointed. But that's just until the next election. That's the beautiful thing about Texas. I mean, it's what the people want. The people speak, and that's why the people need to get out and vote. And when they can get out and vote, then everybody's voice is heard. That's how you make your voice heard.
Beautiful. What would you say to anyone, I guess, that's going through obstacles, whether they want to be a judge or a lawyer, and they're kind of looking back at their life? What would you encourage them to really understand and embed in their mind? Going through what you've been through, like what would you tell yourself as a kid, kind of growing up now?
Yeah.
What would you say?
You need to have discipline.
How important is that?
is very important. I'm gonna tell you, you can't go to law school and deal with those subject matters and then pass the bar if you don't have discipline. This is not college. No disrespect against college and what we all went through in college. But you've got to if you got any friends that are distracting you, if you have any habits that are distracting you, you need to put all that on the back burner. Discipline is important because you're also going to have to use discipline when you go and start practicing. So go ahead and start understanding that now, because when you have clients, you have to be disciplined to work those files. You have to be disciplined to return those calls. You have to be disciplined to come to court on time. So it's critical. Study. You don't know everything. None of us know everything. I pick up case law all the time and still research it. That doesn't make me a bad lawyer. That makes me an even better lawyer.
100%.
Right? So be willing to study. Also, seeking out and asking for opportunities. You may not know a lawyer, but if you know somebody who does, ask that person. Right? Sometimes I even, that first year, I sent out cold call letters to firms saying, hey, I'm Carvana Cloud, I'm a 1L. Will you hire me? And not much came back from it. But I wasn't scared to do it. And who knows? And actually, I ended up clerking with federal judge Lynn Hughes. My first summer as a law clerk. So again, but that was from somebody who knew somebody who knew somebody. You just never know. And I think the last thing is trust yourself and your intuitions. You know you. Nobody knows you like you. So trust yourself. And I think when you combine that with discipline, the ability to study, and you reaching out to others for help, I think that makes a perfect setup for you to be a great lawyer, or for you to be a great doctor, or for whatever it is that you want to be.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
How can someone vote if they want to vote for you?
So, first of all, you have to be registered to vote, and there's going to be several voter registration drives actually across the city and the county. Actually, I am going to be trained to be a voter deputy registrar, and I've already been one, but I'm going to renew my license. But I love registering people to vote. A lot of people don't realize that they can vote. Or, well, I didn't know I could vote. I had a misdemeanor back in 1990, whatever, and I didn't know I could vote. Well, yes, you can, right? So register to vote. Secretary of State has all of that information. harrisvotes.com has that information. But look for voter registration drives. And then once you are registered, then you can just, go in and during every election, show them your license or your card, and you're able to vote.
What are the dates for voting for your campaign?
Oh, so my campaign is November 5th, 2024. Now, 2 weeks prior to that, and I'm not sure what those dates are, but 2 weeks prior to that, there'll be early voting. So early voting will likely start probably around the 22nd or 22nd of October, I think. 22nd, 29th, yeah. About the 22nd of October. But the actual day is November 5th, 2024. Oh, it's going down.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff going on in November, huh?
It's a lot of stuff going on in November. It's a lot of stuff going on in our country right now.
Yeah, there is. Having said that, I feel like the younger generation doesn't understand the importance of voting.
I agree.
Why, if someone's like, I don't need to vote, how would you describe, or I guess say why it's important to vote?
I would take them down to the importance of local politics. I mean, a lot of people don't understand or could care less on what's going on at the top of that ticket.
Yeah.
Right. When I say top of that ticket, I mean president, for example. Because let's say you don't like either candidate. So I'm just not going to vote. I don't like either candidate. No, good Lord, please don't do that, because Local politics is what affects you the most.
Yep.
So you've got to go down that ballot and find the Carvanas, the Sallys, the Susans, whoever that are running for a judge, that are running for precinct chair, that are running for what have you, because those are the ones who make and set policy, who make sure that the judicial system runs correctly. And if you or a loved one get caught up in the system, you kind of want somebody who knows what they're doing. So all politics is local. So, hey man, hey girl, hey lady, what's up? Understand that and come on with me, right? But it also takes us with young people out there to get young people excited about voting.
That's true, yeah.
I used to be able to say that I was young. I'm not as young as I used to be. So, but if, Stephen, if you and I go out and we talk about that to people, you're going to have a different reaction than maybe me, who could maybe be that person's mom and like, oh, she's just trying to tell me what to do again. But if you're like, man, look, if this is what it is, you're able to do this, you know, these judges do X, Y, and Z, we really need you to think about voting. You don't tell them who to vote for, but you talk to them about the importance of politics being local, how it affects them, but you gotta have people they can relate to. We gotta do that. And I don't know that we do that as well as we should. But whenever I do a drive, it's with young people and it's with people who are gonna be able to relate to the crowd that we're going in front of.
I'll tell you this, I've had a lot of guests come on to, our segment and show, and it's so I'm so impressed. Usually I'm not really speechless, but just your life story and your determination and hunger and drive is so inspiring, honestly. We've had guests that have been from homeless to a multimillionaire, guys that were in prison, changed their life, found God, but just the obstacles I can only imagine. And it's so inspiring, and I hope anyone that's a kid or, male or female, really takes notes on what it takes to be successful. Anyone can be successful. And it's those qualities that you have that is outstanding, and I honestly applaud you for it.
Thank you,
It's
Stephen.
It's awesome. Having said that, was there any, closing statements or anything that you would like to say, like a final message?
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for having me, first off.
Thank you for coming, honestly. It's awesome.
As we like to say in the Baptist church, we always have to thank our hosts. Thank you for having me come. I think I'd like to close with this. There is absolutely nothing you can't do if you put your mind to it. There's no barrier, there's no obstacle, there's nothing that exists that should prevent you from really achieving your American dream. Mine was to become an attorney and ultimately a judge. And here I am. I have that opportunity, but I can't have that opportunity without the support of the people. And not just to earn the bench, because I tell people all the time, that bench might say Judge Carvana Cloud on it, but it belongs to the people. It's the people's court. So it belongs to the people of Harris County. And I want you to understand, and any and everybody watching, that I understand that, and I have that humility no matter what I've been through. God gives me that humility to be able to say that, and I mean that with a full heart. So I ask that you please come out in November 5th, vote Carvana Cloud for the 488th District Court. When you do, you're going to really be contributing to a new birthing of criminal justice and fairness, and something that you can be proud of as far as your criminal judicial system.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Well said. Thank you guys so much for tuning in into this show. I'll see you guys in the next one, and don't forget to vote.